But there was something else from that spiritual battle show. I want to circle back to that because there was some stuff that I said on that I'll change now. When you talked about the warning signs, I misunderstood, not misunderstood you. It just, in my mind, I was thinking about a different thing.
Okay.
But I even said on that we could, you want to fast forward 6 months, I might have a different answer about it.
Right.
So.
Oh, yeah, I remember that conversation quite vividly. Yes.
Yeah. So, really, really interesting thing that I've noticed here very recently, part of, with the YouTube stuff, me doing that a little bit, I started to notice something. YouTube was something that kept getting brought up a lot, but I thought it was just me. Like, I'm seeing all these people getting rich off YouTube, and I'm a money guy. I'm like, how are you doing this? I mean, as I said on my videos, they're getting rich off of dancing cats doing cartwheels. I don't understand how this is happening. But I kind of learned all that a little bit, and then I get into this podcast and stuff and doing whatever. Well, not too long ago, I remember I started thinking back to, or I kind of looked at where I'm at. I'm like, this is like the exact same plan that I sort of had, but it's just a better version of it. It makes more sense now. When was the last time I had this, and where was I with God at that point? Is this one of those times where I'm checking back to where God was? And I kind of remembered it, and this was basically right before I just hit the red button of life and just said, let's just destroy the whole thing and build it back. So I'm like, okay, that's what was going on at that time. God was I remember being very clearly tugged to do the YouTube stuff at that point.
Right.
To the point that I'm like, I'll get to it in a minute, but I was distracted. What the distraction was, and I'm going to tell about it here. A lot of people know what it is. But I look back at it, and then I also fast forward to maybe 4, 5, 6 months later when I was so mad. And you know what? This is one of those things I wouldn't have said 6 months ago. I'll tell you, I was mad at God. Me and God were fighting. Yep. And that's not something you want to admit. But it's an emotion of a relationship, isn't it? I mean, you're going to have that. Now, you need to always remember in the argument, you're wrong.
Yeah.
You just go ahead and accept it.
Yeah, it's better just go ahead and admit it.
But now I look at it, and it's like, no, that fight was real, and he wasn't gone. Like, those dark ages, I joke with my mom, I just call it the dark ages. That 5 years, it wasn't that he wasn't there. He was there the whole time, and it's just that he was mad at me, and he had a right to be mad. But I look at seeing now what he had in mind, it's like, for my life, period, not just for a job or a this or whatever, but just looking at the life that he had in mind for me and kind of where I see the future from this perspective. Not where I'm at right now, but the life that I see ahead of me now with his peace and all these things. That being the life that he wanted for me, and I'm sitting here goofing off and not being productive. I don't blame him for being mad, and I think that fight was real, but now looking back at it, that's more reassuring that even when I thought I had walked away completely and he was nowhere to be found, he was still there. He was mad. He was letting me know.
And I think it's kind of like, if you stop and think about it, and I know as we're both dads, but I no offense, but I've been doing the dad thing a little longer, and there are times, and you'll see it. You probably already have. There are times when your kids do some things that, especially as they get to be adults, that okay, I can't change that, but it sure does not. Boy, that just gets it chaps my hind, so to speak. At the same time, I never stopped loving them. And I'm not going to treat them different. I'm not going to be, whether they got in trouble or they did something, and you're like, I taught you better than that. You know better than that. But you still love them. And I had to have a talk a time or two with several of my kids when they did something, hey, we all go to college and we all did some stupid stuff in college.